It's time for another Wild Time to let you know where we're at and what we're up to. Well, we're basically, I guess you'd say, stuck in Arizona. We're waiting and wondering, like many others are. We just absolutely love doing videos, and we've been trying desperately to get videos out, but it's just been one thing after another.
Yeah, we attempted to shoot this video outside, out in an isolated part of the desert where there was no people. Unfortunately, there were many rattlesnakes.
Yeah, more rattlesnakes than people.
Yeah.
No people, lots of snakes, and that wasn't good. And I mean, they're kind of spooky when you come up on them and you hear that rattle like that, and you're not expecting it. We try to keep our head on a swivel and just constantly be on the lookout for them, but it just seems that the second I look at my camera or do something, I'm stepping right next to one,
Yeah.
and it seems easier than it is to avoid them, but you've really got to be vigilant with that kind of thing. But that day, you just kind of said, I think that's enough. Three of them
Yeah,
was
three
enough.
was enough to get me out of there for sure. I definitely did not want to take any more chances. Fortunately, Bernie's very aware of what's going on and has had two occasions where it's been very, very close calls. If it had been me that was that close, I probably wouldn't have noticed it in time. But yeah, that was just a little too much to deal with.
Yeah, so we just we know when to call it. So and there's been other things going on. I've had some significant medical challenges, and I've been in and out of seeing specialists and stuff, and they're getting ready to take some stuff out of me and everything. We're just really hoping for the best with that.
Yeah, definitely a lot of distraction with that, and hoping, like Bernie said, definitely hoping for the best with that, because that's not been a good thing to deal with. But
Yeah.
in this video, we're going to share what we're planning to do or hoping to do, as well as some of the pros and cons that we have found living in an RV during this worldwide crisis that's going on. So.
Okay, so regarding the pros and cons of what it's been like for us living in an RV during a crisis, we really just need to stress that this is very personal and very circumstantial. It depends on where you're at and what's going on and everything. I mean, a crisis will be different for different people. I mean, we could be in an area of the country where it's snowing or having earthquakes at the same time, or other things that compound issues. Could be hot, could be cold, all that kind of stuff. So we're just going to be basically talking about it from our personal position, and most of this falls into two categories for us. One is having to do with space, and the other is having to do with travel.
Yeah, first off, with space, it has primarily space for storage. Right now we're being asked not to go out as much as possible, and trying to get a week or two of food and water and toilet paper and whatever else you need and fit it into an RV is not always easy. We have things stacked in the living room because you do what you have to do to make the space, but it's not like if we were still in our house and had 52 cabinets and drawers and walk-in pantries and places to store things. So space has been a little bit of an issue in that sense.
Yeah, it's you just kind of adapt, I guess. Like Susan's saying, I mean, if you're in the middle of a crisis and you need space, you'll just use your living room. You'll stack it up in chairs. You'll do whatever you have to do. But it's kind of, I guess, on the positive side of space. You got some extra water storage, some extra maybe power storage with batteries. If you got solar, you're probably ahead of the game there. And even the water, power, and what was the other thing that we basically have?
Yeah, we have batteries, we have propane, we have some storage.
Pretty much all that's there, so we really can look at that in a positive. So
yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. Another thing with space is, of course, just the living space. When you're inside 24/7 with just your family, whoever you're living with. If we were still in our 3,000 square foot house, we'd have a lot more space to maybe work on different hobbies or things, and just to not feel so enclosed when you're in 300 square feet trying to do that. It's a little bit more challenging, but fortunately, we're used to it. One of the reasons that we like living in the RV is typically we don't spend a whole lot of time in it. We're out either working, exploring, hiking, doing something like that. And in this particular situation, we're being asked not to go out as much and do those things. So we're spending a lot more time inside, and that can be challenging.
Yeah, you really can get on top of each other at times with things, especially if you're having a little bit more supplies on hand or something like that. And we're really not overloaded or anything. We're just trying to have a week's worth of stuff. And I guess sometimes you get to where maybe you don't keep as much on hand, but when they're asking you not to go out, you want a couple weeks of stuff around, so that makes space a little bit more of a premium depending on what type of rig you're in. And with us, it's just been okay. And Susan and I have spent a great deal of time together already. We're very familiar with each other, and we get along pretty good, I think, under the circumstances of being with each other pretty much 24/7, and so that helps a lot. But when you are cooped up and cabin fever sets in and stuff like that, the space can really be a little bit more of a factor. Like Susan said, you're in a 3,000 square foot home or something bigger than 350 square feet. You can kind of get in your own space and do your own thing, right?
Yeah, and probably the most frustrating thing for us is just tripping over the dog all the time. So, I mean, that's definitely a con, but he's always underfoot. But a pro for that is that we do have the dog, and that does get us out and get us, to walk, even though we're having to walk the same circle around the same place all the time. At least we're getting out because we do have
that's
to
a good point.
take care of him.
That Barkley really does necessitate us to get on the move, and that's a good thing, and it's good for him, it's good for us, and so so space is definitely a factor that comes to mind for us in a crisis.
Another thing that's usually a big pro for us living in the RV is our ability to travel. However, right now, traveling, especially long distance traveling, is not something that is really a good idea or even possible.
Yeah, there's a few reasons why. Some of it has to do with fuel availability. Now, there hasn't really been a lot of stations that we're aware of, fuel stations that have closed down. But in some of the more remote areas, that's a very good possibility because they don't have the employees or whatever to manage the place. And if it's one of those crucial jumps to get across a big desert area or whatever, then it's needed, and you can just find yourself in a bad position. So fuel availability is definitely a consideration.
Availability of a lot of things could be a consideration. For example, if you had a breakdown or needed a part for a repair. We had a pretty major breakdown a couple of years ago and had to wait for places to open. And in this situation, if you had to order something, for example, you could wait weeks potentially for that part to come in. So that would not put you in a good situation.
Yeah, that's very true. And places to stay is another thing. There's places that are just closed down. They're not letting anybody in, and that could be for a variety of different reasons. Fortunately, now we're at an RV park that's allowing us to stay and wait things out, so that's what we're doing. But yeah, places to stay. I mean, it's good to have contingencies. We're always trying to think of is there family or friends that we could pull our rig up on their property or whatever, that kind of thing. That's always good to know. And I guess the other thing would be kind of like that is other closures, like road closures and state lines. Things like that.
Some states are not wanting people to even travel through. So long distance travel is definitely not a thing that's on the list right now. I mean, it may still be a pro if you had to move a short distance. For example, if you were in an area that was very populated and needed to move out, so where you were a little bit more isolated or a little bit, in less of a risk situation, you could probably still move a short distance, which would definitely be a good thing. But
and certainly, if you're traveling this way, you've got all your food and water and stuff with you. Unlike maybe if you're stuck at an airport or something, or in a different country or someplace that's not home and not familiar, and so yeah, a lot of these things are, like we said, very circumstantial, but we're managing the best we can, as many are trying to do. Something we're normally up to is work, and unfortunately we're not now, and that's primarily due to the type of work that we do. We typically are doing seminars and public speaking and seasonal and temporary work.
Yeah, and these have taken a big hit, as you can imagine. You can't really do seminars or public speaking when you can't get groups of people together and have to stay 6 feet apart. So that is not working out. And then we had some temporary seasonal work that we were doing that we were very much enjoying. And unfortunately, they had to close. So that is not happening anymore.
Yeah, and that puts us in a rough situation with the type of thing that we do. But I've been trying to think ahead of things and try to determine, well, what can we do in the meantime. So we're often asked in comments or email about from people wanting to attend our seminars or talks that we do, or some of the wildlife programs that we put on, or whatever it is. There's always been an interest, and unfortunately people haven't been able to attend them because maybe they're in Florida and we're in Washington State or something like that. It's just there's just too many miles to make it practical. And so I've been thinking about this, and something I've been wanting to do for many years is to take this online a little bit and get into doing some online webinars, and so that I think would
Yeah.
would help, and it also it's a good thing because
Yeah.
it allows more people that would like to attend that can't travel and get to where we're at to attend these things. And we've got a
Yeah.
lot of different topics.
Yeah, you do several.
Yeah, we're really good at doing talks that has to do with outdoor and survival skills. I've been doing that for a long time. Digital photography, emergency preparedness, anything obviously business and RV related. I mean, you've got to know us a little bit. If there's things that you think that you would like to attend a talk on online with us, let us know. Drop us an email, hit us up in the comments or something. It's definitely something that we're planning to launch, because I just think it's a good thing anyway, but now with the way that things are going, that's probably going to be a more effective way to put on presentations and things.
Yeah, it definitely will be, for sure. So that's kind of where we're at and what we've been going through. Obviously things vary by your various circumstances, but this is how it's been and how we're hoping that it's going to go for us.
Yeah, and we've got a lot to share on tips about being prepared and what we have on hand and things like that during a crisis, and we try to take crisis across the board. There could be all kinds of different things that could happen. So if you'd like to see a video about that, some tips and what we like to have on hand and what we do during for preparation for crisis, let us know in the comments. And also, we'd like to know what you've been going through and how you've been handling this stuff and how it's been for you to live in your living situation, the pros and cons and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, and please remember to comment, share, subscribe, and don't forget to click on that little notification bell.
Thanks for watching.
Now what are you doing?
Making myself a safety mask, but I think I have to cut it in half.
You know I still need that, right?
Get your Wild About Life 3.5-inch weather and UV resistant stickers. For a limited time, we'll send you 2 for $3.95 and we'll pay the shipping. Browse to our website or click the link in the video description. Thanks.